Hey everyone, it is Shannon and I'm here today with a tag video, and this is the supermarket shopping tag, and it was created by Jason Byways in Bookland, and I was tagged by Sarah from Steeped in Books. Thank you so much, Sarah, for tagging me. This tag is a lot of fun. It is all based on the different aisles or sections in the grocery store, and I had a lot of fun coming up with the answers. And as a quick side note, I've actually decided, because I've been doing a fair amount of tags recently, and I noticed a lot of the same books come up again and again. And so I am going to endeavor for the rest of this year, so gotta remember that, for the rest of this year to not repeat the books that I share in tags. So sometimes I might not give like the top choice, but I still will give an answer that completely answers the question, but just to give some variety, because otherwise I feel like people have heard me wax poetic about the Kate Daniel series by Alana Andrews, and and the Fiend of Our Tapestry by Guy Gabriel Kay, and there's a couple others that just keep on coming up because I just love them so much. So maybe I need to do the all-time tag of tags, tag and or create it or find it if it exists, and so because I feel like I come back to the same ones again and again. So anyway, that's just a little bit of housekeeping, which you do when you shop the supermarket, do you? Anyway, so let's get to the questions. First question, number 1, list. Before going book shopping, including virtually, do you have a list? For me, it depends on who I am shopping for. I do tend to do like one big shop and go down to the Big Indigo here in Toronto at the Eaton Centre, and I do that around the holidays because almost, other than me, my brother, and my sister's husband, who are summer people, everyone else in my family has birthdays between November to January. So I tend to do one big shop. And so when I'm shopping for other people, I always bring a list because I don't want to forget what I am getting. So if I do that, I definitely bring a list, and I also want to have backups, and I usually check ahead to make sure they have it, although it's a really big store, so they do tend to have it. For myself, a little less so. Like I do keep wish lists on Amazon. I keep a Kindle wish list, and I keep a next in series. That's on Scribd. I keep a Kindle wish list, and I keep a wish list for titles that aren't available in any other way except for Kindle, or they're only available in one particular format. It's a bit weird. So why I say that is I read a lot from the library, I read a lot from Scribd. If I can get something from the library or Scribd, I am going to read it that way. But there's some books that like you gotta buy it. So I have my sort of like gotta buy it list, and then I also have a Kindle wish list, and I do keep separate shopping lists for those because I like to sort them by lowest to highest, or sometimes you can sort them by price drop. So I do keep lists for that. But generally when I go book shopping, I often go to secondhand stores, so Value Village or Bookends, which is the Toronto Public Library permanent bookstore down at the Reference Library, which is closed due to COVID. I think Value Villages are now open, but I'm recording this in late July. I don't know when it's gonna go up, but as of this point, I'm not doing extracurricular shopping yet. Not really feeling that yet. So, but generally speaking, I do like to shop secondhand, and in which case, you never know what you're going to run into. I have kept a small document on my phone for, again, a couple of titles that aren't available through the library, and then I'm also like that are like the oldest books on my Goodreads TBR, and like Battle Royale. There's no digital edition at the library, and there's a couple others I don't remember if it's Love in the Time of Cholera or something else, which is why I have it on my phone. And then there's a couple of Margaret Lawrence books. I think I have all but one, and the last time I went to Bookends, I bought the same book twice. So I guess yes and no is the short answer, and I've already answered it in a long answer. So it depends on what I'm looking for, depends on who I'm shopping for. It's kind of weird that I guess I do. It's kind of weird for me to not answer in the positive when someone says, do you have a list for that? Of course I have a list for that. I have a list for everything. I have a list for everything. That should have been my answer. Question number 2, fruit and veg, good for the body and mind. Recommend a book you felt improved your physical and mental health. Okay, so one quick note. I have never quite said this on my channel before, but I actually don't tend to do recommendations, like specifically. I'll share if I loved a book, but that does not mean other people will like it. I try and be descriptive enough about a book so other people can tell if they would like it, but I don't usually give straight up recommendations because I don't want people to be disappointed because they didn't like something that I talked about, so I don't tend to do recommendations. But I will share something that I felt improved my health, let's just go with general health, sort of, philosophy, outlook on things, and it is actually about health, and it is How to Be Sick, a Buddhist-inspired guide for the chronically ill and their caregivers by Tony Bernard. And this was also right book at the right time for me, because a lot of books on chronic illness are often about how to sort of like think your way healthy. That's not always the best advice when you actually have a chronic condition that, because what chronic means it's not going away. Chronic generally means it's 6 months or more. Something that you have that's chronic could get better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will get better. And I appreciated that this book didn't sort of sugarcoat that. There's no honey coating. That's not a thing. Anyway, and I really like the Buddhist inspired approach to that, because a lot of Buddhism is about being with the truth and being with the reality of what is. And I think that is actually extremely helpful when you're talking about chronic conditions or any conditions. So I wouldn't necessarily, I would recommend this, especially if you have someone in your life who does have a chronic illness, there is something, or is chronically ill, there is stuff for caregivers. And this is also a bit of a memoir in terms of she shares her story of having I don't know if her condition ever got diagnosed. So that was also one of the challenges that the author was facing when they became ill, chronically ill. So I really enjoyed this, and I felt like, I got a lot from it in terms of perspective, and it really was right book at the right time. It was something that just spoke to me and was something that I needed to hear at that time. So that's one that I would recommend. The author does have other books, but this was the one that I enjoyed the most. They also have, I think, How to Be Sick. So that is my answer for that question. Number 3, tinned goods. Regardless of the label on the can, the contents are all often too bland. I said that right. The contents are all too often bland. There we go. What's your tin can genre? So what do you feel is bland? So I don't think either of these are technically genres, but I would say both literary fiction and contemporary fiction are ones that I don't tend to resonate with for some reason. There seems to be like a 50-50 or maybe even 70-30 chance that when I read it, I just feel like nothing really happened. And more particularly contemporary books, I'm just like, this is just life. But then there's other books where that's the case and I love it. So I don't know what it is. Like if it's the themes or the characters or something within the story, probably not the writing style. I'm not super fussy on writing style, or maybe I am, I don't know. I tend to resonate more in those genres if it's, or literary fiction, Canadian fiction, but literary fiction I've had lots of misses with, and same with contemporary. I just feel like I don't get what people are loving about it. So that's for me the one that I'm like, it's just like stuff happened. Like it wasn't, I mostly read genre fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, romance, urban fantasy, and nonfiction, and romance. I can't even remember what I said there. It came out so quickly. So contemporary and literary, and I know that those aren't technically genres, they're other things. Number 4, there are other things that I don't know what they're called. Number 4, meat or fish counter. Prepared by a skilled butcher or fishmonger, just how you like it. Tell us about a book that you felt was written just for you. So this one. Yes, this one. The Visual Guide to Classical Art Theory for Drawing and Painting Students by Eric Mantel. I love this book so much. I read it on Scribd as an ebook, and it's just, yeah, and this is exactly what it says on the tin. It is art theory for drawing and painting students or people who draw and paint, and I loved it. It talked about color theory, it talked about composition, it talked about texture, it talked about line quality, and it showed exercises, and it had tons of things like this where it showed different color stories and how colors work together and what the different tertiary colors and and how you mix them in analogous color. It was just totally my jam. It's totally my jam. And if you ever wanted to know, so this is like a different take on the question, but for me, because there's not often that I feel like books are written just for me, and a nonfiction art book is not a huge stretch of the imagination because it's one of my priority categories of something I try and read all the time, so it's not a huge surprise that it ended up being the answer for this question. But I would also say that it's kind of funny that I spend a huge what am I trying to say? I've watched a lot of movies, and I spent a long time very concentratedly watching movies, and I very rarely felt like there was a film that was speaking directly to me until I had that experience, and that was by watching Drive by Nicholas Winding Refn, starring Ryan Gosling, and I was just like, I loved everything about it. Absolutely everything about it. The pacing, the moments, the tension, the music, the framing, the editing, the acting, the story. The story actually, oddly, the least. It's very violent. If you haven't seen Drive, it is very violent. Not all the time, but there was some really strong violence in this, so I can't recommend it to everyone. But when I was watching it in the theater, I was just like this. I'm just like, I felt like it was directly to me. Like, I felt like it was directly, and it's not, but it's not the first film that I had seen by the director. So like there was some of that, but it was just, I don't know, it's just, I felt stronger about that experience than the book experience. So I thought I would share, just in case you were curious. Number 5, baked goods. Bread is a staple for many around the world. Who is an author that you can easily digest at any time of day? This one was really hard to answer because I don't know. I guess I am a bit fussy on what I read at what time per day. Like, there's certain things I won't read at night. There's certain things that I would like to read in the morning, but I did come up with an answer, and more like this particular author, yes, but also more generally the it's not genre, format, style, and I'm gonna go with manga. So this is Golden Kamuy by Satori Nobu. This is volume 11, but manga is something that I feel like I can read at any time. So this is one example, and I'm really enjoying the series. I haven't read it for a while because I'm not getting to the library this summer, which is where the rest of the editions are, and they have them on Overdrive, but they're not in Media Dough, so that's how I like to read manga. Anyway, so where I already lost my train of thought. Where did it go? So I guess I answer as manga. Oh, there was one volume of this that was super creepy, so that I wouldn't like at any time of day. But generally speaking, I feel like I can read manga at any time of the day. It's just something that I like to. It isn't time specific, and a lot of my reading is. So that is my answer. Next up, chilled section. Recommend a cool new author or book you discovered recently. This one was a bit hard to figure out because I do a lot of series reading or genre reading where I am going through lists or I'm reading more from the same person I've talked about. But this is a book that I read, I think, when I wasn't making videos, so I thought I would share. Dracon's Promise. Is this the right one? Blood of the Dracon. Is this the first one? Oh my goodness, I can't remember if this is the first one. Well, the first book in the Blood of the Dracon series by N.J. Walters. This is a paranormal romance series about dracons who are the children of dragons and humans, and I really liked it. I just totally blasted through the first book, and I haven't picked up the second one yet. I really want to do that. It's been a while, and it's the first time in quite some time that I picked up something that I hadn't heard anything about it before and just was completely absorbed into the world, and I really, really enjoyed it. And there's sort of the dracons are secret, but there is a suspense element that people are kind of after them, but they can't let, like, the regular world doesn't know about them. So it's got a lot of the sort of like tick boxes for paranormal romance goodness, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, and it starts in a library. So if you need a book that's set in a library for any reason, there's that one. So, oh my gosh, I am taking forever to do this one. Frozen section, number 7. Tell us about a book that gave you the shivers. I don't read a lot of scary stuff, but this one was pretty creepy, and that is Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones. I read this several years ago for Spring into Horror, so I read it for a horror readathon, and it is about werewolves, and I really liked it. It was pretty creepy, yeah, so that is the one that I would pick for this question. Prompt. Answer. This is the answer to the question. This is the answer to the question. Oh my gosh. Okay, number 8. Beer, wine, and spirits. Name one of the first books that made you feel like an adult. I am going to go with The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. This is the first book I read for the Shannon Reads Those Books project. Which is something I'm still working on, and it's about increasing my reading comprehension, reading titles that are highly referenced, and reading books that really are just those books that people talk about a lot. This is technically, I think, a novella, but it didn't feel short to me. And it was like one of the first sort of heavier texts or classic-y or modern classic-y texts that I read by choice. Often I read things when they're being adapted to film, but this one I just read because I made a huge long list of books, and it's the one that I picked. So yeah, so I'm going with The Old Man and the Sea. Number 9, sweets or candy. What is a genre, author that is an indulgence when you just need a little treat? This one was easy. Heart and Brain, Awkward Yeti Collections, and this is by Brian, it doesn't have his name. No, Nick Selleck. And these are comics with heart and brain. I just love it. I love it. There's several collections are available through Hoopla, and yeah, they warm my heart. They warm my heart. Number 10, magazine sand. If you read magazines or journals regularly, share some titles with us. Well, I think you cannot go wrong with Vogue. I love Vogue. If you're going to get one fashion magazine, make it be Vogue. I really enjoy Vogue. I read it for many years. The articles are great. The fashion is great. Like, it's sort of the one. And I haven't had for a while, but I have really also enjoyed Vogue knitting. It has really complicated patterns, but there's always a variety. I find there's always a variety. So I had a subscription for, I think, 2 years, and it's a great magazine. And I do tend to read Entertainment Weekly. I love their annuals. So this is a Star Wars one. This one's from last year. Best pop culture of the decade. I love the sort of like best of the year. So that one's from quite some time ago. And then I love the fall TV preview. This one just happens to be a Supernatural one, but I love the fall TV preview, and it's a challenging, for me though, it's a bit of a challenge. The year-end ones are great. I usually get them at my stocking because my family is awesome, I love the year-end ones because they share a lot of what's been in pop culture for the past year. But the fall TV preview I find harder to get. I used to have a subscription, but and there's a lot of things I like about Entertainment Weekly, but I do find, unfortunately, for some of the really big shows, it very much spoils them. I definitely got spoilers for Walking Dead, and probably Game of Thrones, although Game of Thrones always kept its sort of tight lid on things. But any of the really big TV shows, they often had an issue that talked about something in or near when it happened, and So if you were behind at all, it was major spoilers. So I ended up eventually not subscribing to it because there was so many spoilers for some of the big shows, and I was like, even if I'm not gonna watch, like, I have a really good memory, so it's like, so that's like, so I have spoilers for shows that I don't even watch, but I might watch one day. So anyway, but I do like the fall TV preview. That is one that I wish you could get that one particular edition. Maybe you can on Amazon, I don't know, I should check that. But I also love the year-end sort of wrap-ups, and yeah, so that's definitely, I've gone back and forth on EW subscriptions over the years, and it is also available, I think, on Scribd, actually, so that might be a better way to do it. But just the cover, although now everything's different. Who knows if we'll get fall TV? Probably not. Who knows if we were 7 episodes away from the end of Supernatural. Like 7 episodes. That's it until the whole series is done. So, so it's a bit of a weird one to bring up right now. But that's my answer for that. Let me know, do you read magazines? I think it's something that people don't talk about as much. I love magazines. I've always loved magazines. And EW is one that I remember getting it when it first came out, getting it right, like right when it started. And I go back and forth every sort of like 5, 10, 12, 5 years. I do get a subscription again, and then I get spoiled by something, and then I cancel my subscription, and then I get it again. And I do like having pictures. Like, I admit, I do like having pictures of, like, and then you don't, especially, I don't keep all of them, but I like keeping the fall ones. But, like, remember, like, Pitch. I like that show. Female pitcher, sport show. It was really good. But it's like, once it's, but it was only lasted 1 season, and then, like, you don't remember it. Oh my gosh, here's an ad for a J.D. Robb book, Apprentice in Death, like, so it's cool. I think it's sort of like a bit of a time capsule, but I don't have anywhere near, wow, I'd never even heard of that show. Imposter, never heard of that one. So I think it's a fun time capsule for entertainment, and so I think it's probably around time for me to get another one and get spoiled. I don't even know what they're doing with all this COVID. Okay, now I'm just babbling. Okay, there's one more question. I think there's one more question. So let's get to that. Okay, checkout time. Time to go home and unpack your groceries, tag some shoppers on the way in. I am going to tag anyone who ended up getting groceries delivered during COVID. So if you got groceries delivered, if you were able to figure that out, you were tagged to do the supermarket shopping tag. So thank you so much again to Sarah for tagging me, and thank you to Jason for creating this tag. It was a lot of fun to do, and now I'm still thinking about EW. Some things we just come back to again and again. So those are my answers. That is my video, and I will be back soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching.